Yeah, okay, I've been trying to be better about reviewing individual games more, but I got caught up in a pile over the past couple of months. So I gotta do the usual catch up list style to get through them all. Here are some review games I've been playing on a plethora of consoles, including my PS5, Steam Deck, and Nintendo Switch. Let's jump right into the first game, Crow Country, which is an homage to the PS1 and horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. You're a government agent, Mara, who is sent to an abandoned amusement park to save someone. The graphics should immediately stand out like something from Final Fantasy VII, and I absolutely love this aesthetic. It adds to the hauntedness of the park, which is plagued with zombie like creatures. It's also riddled with puzzles that are easy enough to solve if you read everything around you. What I didn't enjoy was how awkward it was to shoot. I liked the scope pistol as a starter, but it never really clicked with me. Still, the setting kept me going, and I want SFB Games, the developer, or some other studios out there to make more homages like this. Enough of the pencil games, bring back the low polygons. Let's move on to a game I was less enthused with, Dread Delusion. Feels like an homage to the Elder Scrolls from the first person's perspective to the old school graphics. I think the aesthetic is what I like the most about it, as the rest seems, let's say, a bit generic to me. You're a prisoner, you're set free only to find and track down someone of importance. When that backfires, your captives task you with a new mission, and then things spread out from there. It's not just the graphics that date it, though, it's the mechanics. You move physically very slowly, and the combat is equally clunky along with the menus. For some, the almost passive quest system and gameplay will make fans rejoice. Huzzah! An old school game that I remember from my childhood, or something like that. For me, I would have rather appreciated Dread Delusion from afar and, talk to someone why they loved it. I played it on a Steam Deck, so perhaps that can explain some slowness, but anyway, yeah, it just really wasn't for me. Next, Minishoot Adventures raises the bar back up, and it just might be my favorite game on the list. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter set in a Zelda-like overworld complete with dungeons. You'll fight enemies with heavy artillery, but then get powers to bypass doors, and flooring like a speed boost that can ramp you over things. Plus, there's, the usual stuff like keys. The more enemies you kill, the faster you will level up, which means you can pump more crystals into a pretty robust skill tree. It's wildly addicting and simple to understand even for non-shooter fans of the style out there. Plus, it runs really well on my Steam Deck. It's one of those games that should click immediately with you, or maybe it just won't. And now we have Oblivion Override. It reached its 1.0 status this year in 2024, and I'm glad I'm jumping in now. You're a robot beating up other robots in a 2D roguelike. The design of everything in the world building is reminiscent of the SteamWorld games, which I adore. After dying in Reawakening from a run, you'll be randomly given a weapon based on the ones you've unlocked so far, and then you'll start the whole thing over again. From giant fists to nimble spears to a shield that acts like a yo-yo, there's a lot of variety. You can also unlock new forms, giving your robot pal new abilities. While most upgrades are temporary on a run, you can get a whole slurry of permanent upgrades at the base too, besides new forms like being able to increase HP or how much damage you dish out. It looks good, the combat is fast and fluid, it runs well on my deck, and the reward system is generous. It's an awesome roguelike, to be sure, and my only regret is that I can't sink more time into it. Next, the Rose and Camellia series began as a Flash game in 2007. Now, almost 2 decades later, these games are hitting consoles in a new collection. It's incredibly easy to understand, like I've said for so many games on this list so far. You can slap someone during your round, and you can dodge and counterattack during an opponent's round. The story revolves around an upper-class society of women who dish out vulgar words and slaps to show their dominance. It's through a very anime-inspired lens, making everything extremely over-the-top and funny. Again, it's a simple concept to grab, and either you will gel with it like I did, or you just won't. Is $20 worth it for such a short experience? For the absurdity, yes, of course. If you like playing fighting games with someone in your home, then yes to that as well. Is it a complete knockout? No, but I'm glad we live in a world where Rose and Camellia exists, and on the Switch of all places. And here's another oldie reborn. Save Me Mr. Tako has a cute graphical aesthetic too, as it takes after old Game Boy games. It doesn't just stick with the usual black and whites or greens though. Every area is a new color which helps distinguish one zone from another. The game itself follows the titular Tako, an octopus who wants to help humans and avoid conflict while other creatures want to fight back and start a war. As Tako, you can ink enemies to freeze them initially and platform around. It's a very passive platformer that adds a bit more action through hats that you can collect, like one that gives you arrows. It's a neat idea and an easy game to recommend to young players who don't want a lot of killer combat. However, it's another case where this game just wasn't for me. And last but not least, we have Turbo Kid, which is a Metroidvania in an 80s style Fallout world. You've been armed with a Mega Man-like gunbuster that can shoot at enemies, which can be upgraded for a charge attack along with some other upgrades later down the line. You'll also get a machete for melee attacks and a bike for getting around faster, plus a lot of other abilities throughout the game, as is customary for the genre. It's a weird collage of ideas, but for a Metroidvania, it's really cool. I love how violent it is, as enemies explode into gory piles of goo, and you can pick up people's heads and then shoot them back at them, which is just, chef's kiss. It mostly runs well on my Steam Deck, although it does occasionally crash, usually picking up said body parts. Overall, though, it's another strong recommendation. And overall, that is it. It's hard to pick a standout because there were just so many good ones this month, week, whatever span of time. Even the games I didn't really love, like Dread Delusion and Save Mr. Tako, they will appeal to another audience that just isn't me. But I've been talking too long, so let's wrap it up. As always, thank you all for watching.